Movements sustain not because of legitimacy from somebody's closeness or somebody's appointment or anything. Movements sustain because it takes legitimacy from the people. You need people who can mobilize resources. You need people who can mobilize people. You need people who have the courage to fight. When they come with this and they build this legitimacy from people. The government can give you a toilet, but there is no water coming. For that, you need to have voice to ask. You need that democratic voice. How have we come thus far? Is because we have consistently challenged governments. We have always asked questions of government. We asked for improvements in our life.
Another issue that we are facing is that leaders are switching political parties. The leaders who have been in the electoral politics in the parliament, they are switching political parties. If that is happening, who will actually carry forward people's dissent?
It's extremely difficult to be a citizen. Criticizing in a government in a democracy is like drinking a cup of tea. It should be as simple. Okay? You read a newspaper in the morning, you criticize government, right? You should be able to tell it to 10 more people. It should be that easy.
Kannan Gopinathan, the former IAS officer, the activist, the politician, how do you define yourself?
No, I don't think we have to define ourselves by one of this, what a job that you're doing or something that you're pursuing. I think that's a wrong way to. It's rather you shouldn't get defined, right? So one shouldn't get defined or bracketed or reduced to a resume. That's what I feel. It's a journey. So, and in this journey, you figure out what's the right thing for you as you go, and do it with conviction, and at least be honest to yourself in whatever you're doing. That's it.
So 7 years inside the system, now 7 years outside the system. Where were you able to make much of a difference?
Oh, yeah. I think both the places.
Both.
Being in the service also was extremely productive. I enjoyed a lot. Be it in Delhi, it's one kind of governance, a small period. Then in Mizoram, it was a completely different. And there also Nathial, which was bordering Myanmar, was a subdivision. Now it's a district. Then coming to the capital as a collector, that's a very different experience. And learning Mizo, right? Interacting. In fact, I used to give a speech on this Republic Day. And I think in Nathial, etc. So people used to crowd, right? And large crowd, even on top of their roofs and all. The reason was that I would give the speech in Mizo, and they know that it's going to be a good stand-up session, like a good stand-up comedy, because I'm struggling with my Mizo, but I would insist I will give in Mizo only. So I learned Mizo that way. Then in Aizawl, of course, it's a capital district, so a lot of responsibilities. Then from there, coming to Dadra Nagar Haveli, then it was a completely different ball game altogether. You're collector, you're MD Discom, GST commissioner, excise commissioner, VAT commissioner. It's a small place, so you are kind of in charge of almost everything out there. So that was a different, and you could make a lot of difference because once you are clear about two things, that this power is there, or the authority is there, not for your, for you, who you are, but it is to be used for the people, right? And second thing, you have to be very clear, you don't let your own ego come before other people's interest, right? So many times we have good intentions, but then we also have ego, which is, I'm not against ego per se, but I feel we don't have any right, maybe when we get into a little more substantive part of it.
But system did work for you when
absolutely, absolutely. With being within the system. In fact, how did I get into the system? It's a very simple family in Kerala. Study well, get a job, get a house, get married, have kids. A simple thing, right? As a normal life. So studied well, got a job in Motorola or Freescale Semiconductors, went to Delhi, Noida. I was working there in semiconductor sector. I enjoyed that work also. At that point of time, I was engaged with an NGO, teaching kids in a slum every day, almost on a daily basis. Then, in fact, it is where I met my wife. And once we got married, she's from Haryana. So she then said we need to get into the system because we were successful in what we were doing, but it can be done in a much bigger way if you are into the system. So she joined the civil service. In fact, coaching. So I thought at least we can do dating there because we just got married. So I went there, and I jokingly say that I took the studying seriously and she took the dating part seriously. So I could clear. I cleared. In fact, she said you resign from the job and study a little properly. So I could study without much of a thing. And then, in fact, those kids, like we started with 5 kids. Those kids are now, one of them is a fashion designer. They were kids who were otherwise collecting or garbage, like that. So those kids, that's another impact that you could do right at that point of time. Now they are fashion designers. One is an accountant. One is in medical field. So though the kids that you could actually personally see the difference in, then you get into the system, and you suddenly realize that the effort needed to the result ratio, right? So that reduces, right? With little bit of effort, you can do a large impact. One example is in Nathial. It's a very simple, sporadic example. I went there, and then I just had a conversation like, what do you expect of me? Like, I've come here being in civil service, and I have certain ideas of governance, but what is it that you expect of me to do this? So I was having this conversation with Panchayat and the journalist, everybody there. So one simple thing that came out: one, we don't have internet. Two, we don't have an ATM or anything here. So I remember like, okay, I don't know what I can do about it, but let me at least write a letter. So I wrote a letter to SBI chairperson that time, and without any expectation that the reply would come. But the very next day, the reply came saying that, okay, we have allotted, you find a place for an ATM, right? Similarly, to BSNL, we could get internet. So that's when I realized that one letter, the people were actually struggling for it for months and years altogether. But then one letter that you could write, and then suddenly it gets allotted. So how easy it is, right? Once you understand what is a need, and once you are able to reach out to people and get this thing done. So that's way.
So that means even now, if people, whoever is in the system, they can do a lot of difference within the system itself. It will work.
Absolutely. So we have to understand it in certain ways. Civil service, what it provides is a bandwidth to do, right? So right now, I was me, irrespective of whether I was working in the NGO or in a private sector or in the civil service or now outside or now recently joined Congress or whichever, but it is me. But my circle of influence or the influence that I can exert changes in all these scenarios, right? So why do people write civil services? Because people write civil services, one, there is almost a certain way which is not dependent on others. It's a you study well, right? You need to focus, you study well, and you are able to clear an exam. Suddenly your circle of influence or what you can influence around you changes, right? You are the same person, but suddenly now, right now, 2 people are also not listening to you. Suddenly 2,000 people are listening to you, right? So that immediately changes. But what is it that it cannot do? This bandwidth is provided. What is the influence around which, what is that you can change? That bandwidth is given by the political narrative or the political direction in which the country is, right? So being in the service, you cannot change that direction, right? So you have to work within that direction, and you can do a lot of things, right? If you are in a bus, you can't decide whether the bus is going this way or that way. But what you can do instead is that, okay, maybe you can distribute water and to make the journey a little easier, right? So you can do a lot of things. You have that power, but you can't change the direction or a political direction or a governance direction that the country is taking. So this is the difference, right? So you have to get into the system for at least to be able to be part of that, right? Now, whether you should continue, people all generally ask, right? Why did you resign then, right? If you found it to be,
you could have done better with that access
of
you
course.
had.
In fact, as I said, I got a very interesting text from Sri Pullela Gopichanth last year. Said this last year's under 17 national champion is from your academy. Okay, so he just congratulations. So I was very happy to listen. Why? Because when I was collector in Aizawl, I was saying that the kids are having good badminton skills, but we don't have any coaching facilities or anything like that. So I wrote a tweet, just one tweet, saying that does anybody know how to contact Sri Pullela Gopichanth? And it took me around 6 months, 7 months period or almost a year that to get his contact. I remember saying, hello, Gopi sir, this is, I write this to everybody, almost every message. Gopi sir, this is Kannan Gopinathan, DCI is all, collector is all, can I get in touch with you? Finally, his message came and I was like, wow, like that was the response. Then I said, can you come? My only request is just come and see our kids. And if you think 1 or 2 kids are good enough, please take them to your Hyderabad center. We will try to find sponsors, right? Maybe I was already in conversation with Tata Trust at that point of time. It's a very small thing. He came, it took a year for him to, get his date. He came, he saw the kids and he said, it will be unfair to just take 2 kids. Instead, why don't we start a badminton program here in Mizoram, right? So suddenly Tata Trust also came in together. And then Mizoram badminton program with Pulela Gopichand's involvement and his team's involvement started. And it is from that academy, that grassroots program, that the current under-17 national champion is. Right? So one tweet, some dream, nothing involved. Right? No other, there are people willing to give land, there are people willing to give resources, right? The Mizo Badminton Association guys were extremely helpful. They said, okay, we'll all come together. And it's been running since then. Even now I get messages saying that, our kid is going here, with the t-shirt, etc. So what was that? It was not given. It was not an task that the government of India or somebody else asked you to do. But that is a freedom also that you have. You can use that power or that authority or a position and make, definitely have. In Dadra Nagar Haveli was MD Discom. And that's a loss-making Discom, right, for the past so many years. Within 1.5 years, we were able to make it profit. Right? Of course, it's another story that after becoming profitable in another 2 years, it got privatized and it went to a firm. But we were able to make it almost 100 crore profit per annum. It's a Discom, right? There are roads which are pending for 22 decades more. We were able to do that. There were any of this, right? We were looking at multiple charges there, and in all those sectors, you were able to make changes because you are in those positions. So there is so much you can do. It's not one thing. There's so many things that I can count on and on.
But is there something you think that you can do better when you're outside, and what outsiders can do better than the people sitting inside the system?
So this is where I give the example. That's a point, right? It's that let's say you are like here right now in Trivandrum. Let's say we want to go to Kochi. We saw the bus. Okay, there's a bus, and it's a long line. Difficult. It's very difficult to get in. The board says Kochi, and we are getting in. And after we got in, very difficult. It's a luxury seat, Volvo, AC, everything. It's good. Now very relaxed. But after a while, you realize that now it's going to Chennai. So what do you do? Do you continue because the ticket was very difficult? Do you continue because it was very luxurious? Is very luxurious, or seat is there? Or what do you do actually as an individual? You'll say, I'll have to get down, right? I'll have to get down and I need to walk to the direction that I have to go, right? And that direction, be it alone or be it walking, it doesn't matter, right? You have 1,000 steps in the wrong direction is completely, worse than 1 step in the right direction. Right? 1 step, or rather the other way. 1 step in the right direction is more important than 1,000 steps in the wrong direction. Right? So that way, what I realized is that when it comes to that directional issue, that where I, as an individual, as a citizen, I also have my dream about where my country should be going. Right? How my society should be. That part of it, suddenly you lose. Right? So the voice you lose. I can't say that, no, this is wrong, right? Let's say something is happening. In fact, certain things are governance, so you may disagree, agree, but certain things are polity, right? Certain things are beyond that. So there, you suddenly find that you don't have the agency to voice it out or do something beyond, right? In fact, if I was in after the resignation, I think we built that CNRC movement. I was traveling around 80, 90 districts, got detained multiple places, all that. But what happened in the end? We were able to at least push back the NRC, right? If I was in government, I wouldn't have been able to even be part of that journey that pushed back, right? So now suddenly you see that, okay, what you could do while being in service and what you could do while being out of service. But the thing is, whether you're in or out, you have to do. That's not the point of whether you are inside or outside. Even before that, I'm still equally proud of the fact that those 5 kids which we started in that small place, in fact, we had to convince their parents that why should they study, right? Please dream for them, right? Because they are rickshaw pullers or something. So you can continue to be a rickshaw puller. Your kid also will become same. So even to dream is a privilege, right? That how the kids should be. So convincing them, and in 5 minutes trying to convince the parents that just today 5 minutes think about your child, right? Like I know there are 100 other issues that you're going through, but just 5 minutes, like, where do you want to see them, right? And that conviction took so much in terms of so that way. In fact, my biggest learnings have also come from there. I remember I was teaching, 3 of us were actually teaching on a daily basis, and we were pooling money, and then we were only putting money and doing all that. We would distribute books or globe or something like that. One day I remember I was teaching them, 5 of them, and one of the kids went up and said, "Sir, you are an NGO, right? You are running an NGO, or you are from an NGO. Now NGO guys get a lot of money, but you don't give us any money. So what are you doing with all this money?" Okay. Somebody must have
Told him. Yeah.
somebody must have asked her that. And she is very small kid. So she just very straight away asked, "What are you doing with this money?" So allegation, right? Straight away. That you are. I was hurt. I was so hurt. I felt like I have to do my private job. Then 2-3 hours of teaching. Then often we have to go back and do the job again, right? Because that work is almost pending. We also put contribution in terms of money, and we are teaching them. And now we also have to listen that after all this, that we are somehow doing some sort of. So then I got out. I was hurt. In fact, I think I was crying. So I called now my wife. She was a friend then. So I called her and I said that I am stopping. I can't come here. I can't take all this. So she asked, "Why did you go?" So I said, because it was important, it was necessary. It is important that the kids study. And it is also, we were necessary because they were not being let into any other schools. And if we don't go, then they won't be able to study. So it was out of necessity. So then she asked, has the necessity changed? Okay, has the need for their education changed? I said, no. Then she asked, then why are you stopping? So suddenly I realized, why am I stopping? So either I'm stopping because my ego was hurt, right? That I'm doing some big self-sacrificial thing here, and they're making allegations on it. And no, I don't want to do anything. You go your way, I will go my way, right? I can go watch a movie in my mall or something. And why should I do this? So then she confronted in that way, saying that either you admit that you had gone there for your own ego boost, right? That you've gone there for something, that you're doing something for the people or something like that. In that case, you stop it, because that purpose is not getting served. Now they are asking questions on it. Don't say that you had gone there for a need or a necessity, and then stop it because your ego was hurt. Because then it's contradictory, right? Be consistent on your thing. So then I felt, yes, I did go there. Somewhere the ego thing came up. But I also realized I don't have any right to put my own ego against somebody else's benefit. I do still put my ego against my own benefit, right? So I remember writing, saying, okay, my interest, my ego, other people's interest, right? So if there is somebody else's interest involved, some public interest involved, I have no right to put my ego and block it, right? Even if it means involving me. If my interest is there, that's a thing personally I need to resolve, right? And I went back. I talked to the next day. I went and I told, I'm not taking name because they're now big now. So that there is it's a slum. So just outside there is a small road through which there is a old guy who almost every day takes this cart of vegetables, tomato, fruits and everything. He'll just go through and go walk like. So I said, why don't you do one thing? You help that kaka every day, right? First day you try to push him because it's very difficult for him to push. You help him. First day you help him. Second day you help by pushing the cart. Third day, by fourth day or fifth day, he will start thinking, you must be taking something. That why is this kid, why is this girl coming and helping me every day, right? But that's not your fault. That's because we as a society haven't cultivated the habit of goodness. We are not used to somebody being good without a reason. We need to attribute a reason. Somebody is being good, then we need to, he must have something else in mind.
We are like a highly trust deficit society.
Yes, right. So there is a trust deficit, and we are not used to, I think it is, we are not habituated to goodness, right? Or trust for that matter. So when that happens, you need to attribute reasons which justifies your own, or gives satisfaction to your own calculations. So that's one thing I learned. In fact, that's extremely useful for me throughout the service period also, because every single time it was clear, if I need to call somebody sir or go into the office or whatever, if it is for public interest, never shy back. Don't look at, okay, I am a DM or I am so and so, I am on such and such, and I will not do this, I will not. That part was extremely, but this learning came from there, right? So overall, yes, being in service, you can do a lot of things within the bandwidth provided by the political narrative, and in remaining in the same direction as the political direction that is there. If you need to change, if you are not happy with the political direction of the country that the country is taking, you can't do much while being in the service. What you can do is you can say that I can do whatever little bit I can do, which is a lot of people are doing, right? A lot of people are doing, trying to do what they can do to make a citizen's life easier. And in the hope also that someday this will change, right? Maybe they don't agree with the political direction right now, but they have some feeling that, okay, if not today, tomorrow it will change. So that part is fine. But if you're actively wanting to change it, then you can't, right? So I wrote when I was exiting, or even in fact when I joined Congress, there are two parts to it. One is that serving the people. The other is the raising the voice, right? It took me a while. So while in government, you can serve, right? You can do things, but you can't raise the voice. Then around 6 years plus, I was in the activism phase also, where you could raise the voice, right? But you couldn't serve in that way, right? You couldn't make any governance or a policy interventions or something like that. But then in politics, I think politics kind of couples both, right? You have an opportunity to serve, not always, maybe when you have access to power, or and at the same time raise a voice also, because you also can influence the direction of the political narrative that is there. So if you feel strongly about it, then you need to
Be in
plan.
politics. So you are from Kerala. You have worked in several states, but as I understand, you're predominantly working in Bihar and northern states right now.
Yeah, Maharashtra and North.
Maharashtra and North. So what draws you there? Why you picked that area?
No, that has a lot of. In fact, my Kada preferences itself was like that. So I think first was Uttarakhand, second was Agmut while serving, right? While the IAS time also. Then third was, I think, Bihar, right? So I felt one is where you are from. The other is what is your conviction about where, that's I said, where you can be more productive, right? Where you can be more useful, right? What your own feeling about where you can be. So I felt that yes, I studied in Jharkhand, right, in the Birla Institute of Technology. So, and journey has been like that. So I till 12th in Kerala, then early in Palakkad, then in Kottayam, then BIT Mesra, Jharkhand, then went to Noida, then married to a Haryanvi, then worked in Delhi then moved to Mizoram, Nathia, Aizol, then of course served in Dadra Nagar, northeast to then west, then currently settled in Maharashtra, right, staying in Maharashtra. Another thing is that I found that I can learn languages, right? So Marathi is something now I'm learning and having conversations with. Mizo I learned. Mandarin, Chinese I could learn. So of course Hindi, English, Malayalam, of course, and then Tamil, whatever Malayalis Tamil is there that we can do, right? So that way you get to have access to a lot more people, and Where it's needed is there, at least from a political point of view, I think if you're able to make a slight difference in the politics of the North, that will have a huge impact across the country.
But there is a school of thought that politics has to be rooted in a one particular place, one particular community. Like how?
Constituency.
Yes, like how do you go about with that?
No, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. In fact, that's constant advice that I also get, that you can't. That effectively means you're nowhere, right? And in some way, right also, right? You can be here, do something, speech, say something, then tomorrow go somewhere else, and then there is no follow up. There is nothing that actually on the ground that happens. You are giving speeches or maybe something, and that's it, right? So how do you follow up after that? So for that, you have to be there at least substantial amount of time. So that kind of an all India thing may work for a while, but over a period of time, either way, right? I don't on completely do this thing that okay, you have to be rooted and only do a constituency based politics, like only that, right? But at the same time, without any constituency or without any place there where you can call, it is difficult to do for a sustained period of time also, right? So somewhere we have to balance, and it also depends on from where you're coming to politics, right? So for a lot of people, politics is through, let's say, student politics or at the panchayat level, or so it's already coming from that constituency. It is rooted in the issues of that place and coming. Some politics is coming because of there is ideological issues, right? There are, so that politics is applicable across, right, across the country. It's not just rooted in one constituency, the same issue. So at times people ask the question like, are you now into Kerala politics or are you into national politics, right? I say I don't see any difference, right? So if there is a neat leak, it's affecting the whole country. It's also affecting Kerala, right? If there is a ethanol being mixed in petrol, it's affecting everywhere, right? If the crude has fallen, but petrol prices have not fallen, it affects everyone. If there is a tendency to criminalize everything, it affects everyone, right? So we have created that because maybe the idea is that because we have kind of a federal structure, so are you interested in the state politics, the legislature part of it, or maybe the parliament part of it? That could be the understanding, but the issues are more or less there is hardly any issue which won't affect state or nation that
But
way.
people usually very rarely leave their home state for politics. So I was thinking like, what if more people do this, what you're doing?
Yes, I think a lot of people are doing this. I'm not saying that many do, right? But at the same time, if what is your aim in politics, right? So there can be two things. Is it to become something or is it to do something, right? If it is to become, then it helps to choose your constituency early. Like you want to become an MLA or a panchayat or councillor or MP or whatever, right? Because then you can establish your connect, right? Now, if you want to do something, that's it. Okay, you feel that okay, ideologically, this message needs to go to as many people as possible, right? And I feel strongly about certain things. It needs to go to as many people as possible. Then, if you stick to the constituency, then that won't happen, right? So there are two parts to it, and both are needed. It's not just one part to it needed, right? A lot of politics, let's say of the right-wing politics, was about pracharaks, right? What they were doing. They were doing and talking about what they believe to be right or what they believe is going to yield political results for them. That they were doing it, right? They're not just focusing on one constituency or doing certain things. People are talking about what they feel is right and why people need to follow it. What is the benefit of it or what is the harm in the other kind of politics? This is what consistently being communicated. So there is enough scope and demand for people to do that. At the same time, there is also need for constituency because ultimately that's where a lot of issues, people's immediate issues, get tackled. So both are needed.
So you resigned on principle.
Yeah.
So since then, Dissent has become very expensive in India. So how do you see it?
Yeah. In fact, I remember saying when I resigned, they asked, "Do you dissent to what this happened?" I said, "No. I resigned so that there is a space to dissent. right? Because at least it creates a conversation around my resignation where people can dissent, right? That what they are not. The fight right now is more or less for a space to dissent rather than even dissenting, right? It be any matter, right? And that of course is has at that point of time anybody who criticizes the government was being called as an anti-national, right? And depending on where you're coming from, a jihadi or a rice bag convert or a khalistani or whatever, urban naxal, everybody being given a name. Anyone who criticizes the government will be given immediately a name, which is to bracket them into one of this, so that then their voice is already silenced, right? How do you silence it? If you attack on the credibility, if you tag them with something, then you don't have to give any importance to what they are saying. So easy way to silence is destroy the credibility, right? So that was what was happening. So in fact, I remember my seniors in the service telling that you are a complete fool, Kannan, for resigning, especially on the kind of restrictions that were put in Kashmir after 370s. On such an issue, you resign. People are emotionally connected in the other way, in many in most possibly, and maybe half an hour you'll get some news coverage. Beyond that, nobody is going to give a damn about who you are. And so I remember answering in that same WhatsApp group that even if because of me, if 30 minutes we are going to discuss this issue, I think that's worth it. Because right now we are not even doing that. Somebody has to discuss it, right? And if that discussion is triggered by this, then that's already worth it. But it's been 7 years and we are still talking, right? We are still having conversations around it. So I believe actions definitely have, for words of dissent, needs actions which precedes it, backing it, right?
But is there a systemically induced fear?
Yeah. So what is being thrived on is the self-censorship, right? So people at times come and tell, Kannan, don't talk about that issue, because that issue is not, unnecessary, it becomes a problem, or this or that, right? Even before somebody has opposed you, even before, let's say, government has said anything, even before government supporters have said anything, you're already trying to muffle yourself. You're trying to silence yourself, right? Saying that, okay, let's not get into, even you feel strongly, you feel that is right, but let's not get into it, right? So the self-censorship part is the most dangerous thing. It's like you have a hand, and if you don't use it for a while, what happens? Wasting. Your muscles atrophy, right? Then when you have to use it, you actually find that you can't do it because you've not been using it. So that's with rights also. Any kind of freedom. If you're not using those freedoms, then suddenly you'll find when you need to do it, you don't have a strength. So that happens in a very, of course, government, there is no doubt about the fact that the government has been extremely harassing or harassment oriented when it comes to dissent, right? So if you tell something, I remember while being in service, there is a politician who said something about the tribal rights. The immediate response was like, what do the politics party generally do? Those are in power. They will maybe try to give an answer, maybe say, what about what did you do when you are in power? Or you will send 50 people to tell that, okay, you are not useful or something, some kind of trolling, right? Some of these things will happen. But that's not how this government works. This government works immediately by saying, okay, find out this while I was in service, that find out what are his businesses. Does he have buildings? Do the buildings all have permissions? Now, if they don't have permissions, let's send him a notice. So he said something political about a tribal rights. The immediate response is, let's see the buildings. He has a hospital, he has a college, he has something else. Let's go give him a notice. And once they give him, if he still doesn't shut his mouth, let's bulldoze it. So there is a bulldozer raj coming, right? It's kind of, what is bulldozing? You're bulldozing dissent, right? So essentially that becomes a governance thing, which is crazy, right? And it can be spread to any government. Any government can feel it. So issue here is, people will say it's perfectly fine because he was violating XYZ, right? Maybe a setback rule or something else. There is a legal reason to destroy that building, right? But and many people confuse that as rule of law. Okay, that's by law, right? He has violated a rule or violated a law. You are doing it. How can you defend it? The difference is that what is rule of law and what is rule by law, right? Rule of law means the law is superior, right? Accordingly, you take a decision. So if there are 100 houses in that lane and 100 of them are violating the same thing, if you go by rule of law, you will send notices to all 100 of them, right? Now, if 100 are doing the same thing and one of the person has dissented and you give notice to that guy, then that is rule by law, because you're using law to rule. You're not ruling according to law. What you're doing is using it, right? You're conveniently using it. And that's essentially what a lot of administration, bureaucracy, or governance has reduced to. It has been reduced to find out how legally we can do this immoral, unethical thing. Okay. Legally correct, everywhere it's wrong, it doesn't matter. How can we legally do it? So that you can defend it. So that, why are we doing like a lot of this? Like in some crime is happening, suddenly we start celebrating bulldozer Raj, and there is no defense to it also, because he's saying it's already violated, right? We have started destroying our own citizens' home. The governments are supposed to build homes, houses for citizens. Now we started celebrating destroying their houses, right? Just look at and that, I think, in somewhere is also largely connected to the transition from being a citizen to being a subject. The change that has happened, right? So I believe a lot of our independence struggle, of course, was about independence, but also was about becoming a citizen. So it was our ticket to become. I'm not saying that we became citizen overnight, right? So it was a journey to becoming a citizen. Yesterday you had this much right or this many rights. Today you should have more, right? It's an expanding set of things. Suddenly, at some point, government realized, this government especially, 2014, they realized this is all a stupid thing. There is no reason to pursue these rights and ask questions, Lutyens, this question, people asking faltu ke sawal, that kind of an image to anybody. Khan market, whatever. Anybody who is into this are all useless, like Jholewalas, Andolan Jeevis, whatever names you can give, or we will just deliver, right? We will give ration, or we will give toilet, or we will give something. Okay, that's all. This rights business is completely stupid thing. And this comes from a basic understanding of what makes a strong nation, right? So, and this is where I think the political direction, as I said, there is a set of people who believe that a strong nation means a strong government. Okay. So for them, a strong government is a strong nation. And then the opposite of that is a political idea which believes that strong people or strong citizenry means a strong nation. Right? So this is the difference. And that can be very clearly seen. Most of the times in our newspapers, what we celebrate, in fact, a lot of this, that this year's GST collection has increased by this much. Our income has not increased. Okay. But we are celebrating government's increase. Our salary might be stagnating for the last 5 years. It's not going. But 10% increase in GST collection. Why? We have started to, connect nation as government, not people. Poor people, what do you see? These are all somehow inconveniences. Strong government, right? All the laws that empower, now empowers the state, right? Not the citizen. It's a very easy to explain that UPA, what are the laws that we remember from the UPA? Right to education, right to information, Forest Rights Act, right to food, right? All these, or right to work, Narega. So all these are what? These are rights, and rights exist vis-a-vis the state, right? Vis-a-vis the government. These are empowering the citizens, right? The citizens till now you couldn't ask a question. You had to at least either write a letter and then wait for the mercy, or go and give money, whatever, to get an answer, or maybe take 100 people to a collectorate march to get a reply. Suddenly the governments have empowered that no, you can just write, and it's the duty of the government or the officials to now respond, right? Or if they don't respond, they have to pay a fine. Imagine the power shift, right? The amount of that comes from what idea? That a strong nation means a strong citizenry. It doesn't come the other way. That part, and if you take a look now, any of the acts, it's been 12 years, one act that has empowered
Yes.
citizen.
Not even acts, even the court judgments have stopped.
Because the governance has changed, right?
Yes.
The belief.
Like last thing, I think 2017, the LG decriminalization of gay marriage,
Yeah.
like same-sex marriage, would have been the last rights
That was
based.
also, I think, through the Supreme Court.
Yes, through the Supreme Court. So, like 2005 onwards, we saw a decade of, right-based legislation, and it's not only are we getting new laws, but they are
That's
getting
also getting
diluted.
diluted. And because that comes from two set of beliefs, right? I'm not saying one party is a villain or the other party is a hero. It comes from a belief that strong government, so that way, rich government means rich nation. Strong government means strong nation, right? That's one belief. The other belief is rich citizens would mean rich nation. Strong citizens or strong people would mean strong nation, right? So this is the fundamental, in my view, the division is. And rest everything is incidental to it. So if I start believing government is strong, I would want to make everything that are associated with the government to be strong.
So these laws, since you started with that, I was about to ask you a little later. So what do we do? Like so many people have fought to get these rights, be it RTI. Years of struggle has been there for RTI to come into place for the first time. So they are getting quietly undone now. Like quietly, they are, all these laws are getting undone. What do we do? Like, do we start from scratch again if we need more rights-based legislation?
Yeah. So what happened was, I was also critique in many ways during that time, was most of us were upset with the pace with which these reforms were happening. We wanted it to be much faster, and the pace was slower, right?
When you were in the system,
No, even before, right?
like
As, let's say,
when you were a student, or
student or in the working there, etc. So people who fought for these legislations have also felt that the UPA took so much time, or it was not fast, or that kind of. Now, because of that, at that point of time, a lot of places where you go, you ask people that, do you find any difference between this government? They'll say, no, both are same. It's equally the same. There is nothing much of a difference in there. Of course, one is communal, the other is not. People generally don't focus on the weakening of the citizenry part of, which is the most important thing, because we don't interact with the state as a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or any of that. We interact with the state, we have only one identity, we are a citizen. There's no other identity, right? So when a power of a citizen is eroded, then absolutely all citizenry is eroded, right? In some places, the communal thing helps to accelerate this weakening, right? So when you're bulldozing a house of a let's say a Muslim, it creates a communal narrative that helps the party, them. But at the same time, what is happening? A citizen's house has been bulldozed by the state without following any procedure. What has actually been weakened? It is the citizenry. It is the power of the citizens. So we have to first be clear that it took me a while. That's why it took me 6 years to find a party, right? To join a party. I think last October, November, I joined, because it took me, I also started thinking a lot. We are all clear what is wrong. Okay, so what they are doing is wrong. But what is right? That conversation is very limited, right? We don't get into that. So all of us, I was convinced after all these discussions that, okay, no, this is the right? Congress is now the right vehicle and is for me to fight, right? So I think that clarity, and individuals will have that clarity, or Congress or something else, it could be, but that clarity needs to come. There was a space for non-political fight, or non-governmental organizations, or there was a space that Congress or governments used to provide, like UPA time. There was a space for that fight. That space is not there anymore, right? So right now we need to first fight to get that space back. Then of course we might have dissent against Congress government, or that government, or this government, or any of it. So that's where it gets reduced, a lot of it, to a pure political fight.
So what will happen to a democracy if, citizens decide to stop paying for the dissent, when it gets very expensive?
That's a dangerous thing, because That's where I said the subject to citizen journey, because we have always been good subjects, irrespective of who are the kings. There are good kings, there are bad kings, but we are not a civilization who have overthrown a king, right? We have been good subjects. It was, in fact, during that freedom struggle, one was asking for the independence, but at the first time, massive level, this consciousness changed that we can now ask questions to power, right? We can. And that is hard fought thing for us. So even when you take example of emergency, why people came onto the streets and fought that? Because we had a recent memory of fighting that, okay, we can fight power. It's nothing stopping us from fighting power. So if we lose that, because our natural tendency is to be subject, because of so many reasons, right? It could be the way we have been conditioned, the difficulties that we are facing in life. It could be the hierarchical society that we have. All those things could be a factor. But we have once broken it. Now if we settle back, then it's going to be very... So that's my biggest worry. The biggest worry is that if we start deciding this, what you said, that okay, let's not... Okay, it's okay. And we can live like that. We can live like that for... And people have lived like that for centuries. Like democracy is not a stable equilibrium. Right? As I see it.
Yes.
It takes energy to sustain it.
Yes.
Right? Otherwise, we would have been a democracy for thousands of years. All of us would have been democracy. Why is it that democracy was there in 2000 years somewhere in some places and then it went to again autocracy or monarchy? Is that monarchy is the lower energy state. If you have to define it in a physics way, that is a lower energy state. It's a more stable equilibrium. The barriers are also high, right? So to escape that, it's very difficult. It almost takes a revolution to get out of a monarchy. It becomes difficult. So the barriers are high. It's much deeper valley. You can settle down there. Democracies are shallow. Not the concept as shallow, but as a plane. Like if you take a look at it, and you can actually roll over it and go to a deeper monarchy or an autarky or autocracy or any authoritarian systems, and you can stay there for a while. So how do we prevent it? It needs continuous energy. That continuous energy will only come from citizens, civic engagement. Right. One is, of course, civic engagement. Second is, how do you prevent it from falling over? That needs barrier engineering. Like, how are these barriers? And that is our institutional design. Right? How our judiciary is designed, how our media is designed, so when there is a change, so we need to rethink. What we are currently seeing is that our institutional design is not prepared or was not prepared for such kind of an assault. Suddenly we feel that nothing is... No, we have judiciary which asks questions of the citizens and not of the state. Right? Outrightly. We have a media which has kind of gone back to being a courtier. Right? Yes. Or a Rajkavi.
Yes.
Right? Because there are...
But now we are seeing alternate digital spaces also coming up little by little, but they are also being...
See, what is happening is, because once you decide it into a patronage base, then at some point, it goes. New pages will come, new things, but it gets absorbed larger. Once it becomes larger, then it gets absorbed and then it goes into the similar kind of a system in many ways.
Yeah, now News Click, I guess it was... ED raid was happening.
Yeah. But it had to, So there is a continuous onslaught, right? A continuous assault on it. So how we have to define our institutional checks and balances for such kind of so we need to create all that, right? So that is a worry, that without a continuous energy being spent on it to maintain the democracy, whether it will survive or not. Right? Easier thing is, it's very difficult to be a citizen. It's easy to be a subject. If you are a citizen, you have to be aware. You have to know what is happening. You have to then take time to understand it, question it, face consequences for it. It's so difficult because as an individual, you have 100 other things. You have to run your house. You have maybe family issues. You have your child. You have so many other parents to take care of. So many things that you're going through on a daily basis. And now you're also asking that individual to be a citizen. Forget all this. Now do this, be aware, ask questions, do this, do that. But if you don't do it, what we are losing is something that is almost impossible to get back. So for this to, the government can give you a toilet, but there is no water coming. For that, you need to have voice to ask, right? There are cylinders given, but there is no money for it to be refilled. So you ask that, okay, where is my next refill coming? What do you need for that? You need that democratic voice To receive, you don't need the democratic voice. You can be a subject. But for your own improvement, how have we come thus far? Is because we have consistently challenged governments. We have always asked questions of government. We asked for improvements in our life. And that questioning comes through this. And it's very difficult.
No, it's also about what happens to people who question. So just now, because you told about water, I did you hear about this recent case few days back with Bharat Tiwari in Bihar?
Yeah.
Here. So he was asking questions like he was murdered in an encounter.
Yeah. No, there are many other angles to it, but at the same time, but it is a cold-blooded, and we can just write anything as an encounter.
Yes, like
Right.
that's why it's murder.
Anything that we can right now pass it off as an encounter, right? And people will buy it. Not buy it, and there is actually what is also happened as so the people who believe the government has to be strong, for them this is the strength, right? So there is only one gunda.
No, it's like you are showing. See what happens to people who
Of course,
dissent. Like this is what happens to you
of
if
course,
you ask questions.
of course. My case, my resignation has not been accepted. I have not been allowed to move forward in any which way. I cannot join a professional firm. I cannot contest elections. I cannot have even my own company or anything, because all this has been like kind of completely put out there, right? And they are not giving any reason. They're asking, I go to judiciary. I feel that's the last thing to do, but maybe we'll try that also. But this is where they say that, okay, we'll try to suffocate you, right? In many ways. Murder is a extreme thing, but anybody who dissents is suffocated in one way or the other, and consistently. That so all there is like, if I'm in service, then I should get salary.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not suspended also. I'm not. But no, none of that is there. So at the same time, you're saying, okay, now we want to see how you survive. Right. Let's see how far you can survive. You will come back crawling. Right. Maybe I will. I don't know. But right. But that attitude to your own citizens, your own people. Right. I disagree with the government. I have every right. I'll leave. Maybe you disagree with me. Fine. Fair enough. But to say that, no. How dare you do that? That's an attitude. That's a petty revenge, vindictiveness. And the state is powerful entity. The state decides to show this petty revenge attitude, then it can cause hell in almost all individuals.
Do you think that Animal Farm is becoming more and more relevant every day?
It not just Animal Farm. In fact, there are, I think, other books of the same era which actually helps in. One is, of course, control of information. The other is about so much of rubbish, right? So much of rubbish. I'm forgetting the name of the book, right? I think Toffler. So much of information out there. People themselves feel there is nothing useful. Like morning to evening, if I give you thousands of rubbish content, right, that you call as brain rot or whatever, then it's difficult for you to engage with even one. Right. One is about controlling the information, right? You will get what. The other is about flooding you with it, right? So what we are in is actually a different kind of dystopia. I don't say dystopia. I'm an optimistic person, but I'm saying the direction in which we're taking is that you push people with so much of rubbish that it's almost impossible to filter what is right, what is wrong, what is fake news, what is right news, what is important, what is not important, right? So what is interesting, not interesting, everything. So almost becomes impossible. You're flooded with it. And in that case, what you say, you just lose interest, right? And you go by whatever the authority says. Somebody we have to believe, right? Who is the best person is the authority. Somebody is in authority, so you start going by whatever the authority says. So that's the other kind of thing that happens. So Animal Farm explains in one way. I think here it's a slightly different way.
It's not like people having responded or protested. We saw people coming out in farmers' protest, CA protest.
Yeah.
Then now recently in the NEET protest with all Cockroach Janata Party,
Yeah.
But somehow I feel that political parties were not able to convert this energy into a political momentum. Do you see?
No,
there is a disconnect.
There is, at least I also used to believe that.
Yes.
But on the NEET issue, in fact, I am in Trivandrum for the NEET
Yes.
issue.
Okay.
Congress did a lot of protest, right? Be it NSUI, be it Youth Congress, etc. But One is, of course, this general complaint that the media doesn't carry, right? Because it's a Congress protest, it's a political protest, so there is nothing. Okay, it's an opposition party, so they will protest, right? So you start trivializing the protests of the political parties, right? Because they are doing because they are in the opposition. So that's one part to it. The other part to it is, of course, is also people feel a need to disassociate from anybody which is establishment, right? At establishment, not just now, it could be some time before or some other time. So we are looking for, we don't want to be tied to this or that. I was also during that period CNRC or even later when we were building movements. So feeling this, that we don't want to be this party or that party. We want it to be a people's protest, right? Now, there is a great deal of good thing about it because it politicizes people. So all these movements, what they do, they take these discussions into the public. Otherwise, which is not happening, right? And that is a moment where people politicize. Every generation needs it. So people get politicized. Once they get politicized, even though the movements start as apolitical, right? It slowly gets political and the political discussions do happen. So that's important. At the same time, if it stays apolitical for a while, that meaning goes away because then nothing has happened. Maybe over an issue you have done something, after which you are just going into different parties, right? You just go into, there is no ideology to it. Second part about it is why movements are needed, is that is a time when the barrier to entry into politics gets lowered, right? How do you enter politics? Let's say you didn't join a student politics, or most of the colleges don't have student politics. Now, how do you enter a political party? Right? There is no entry. There is no way you can enter. You maybe join as a consultant, or you can do as a some sort of a political analyst or something like that. You can be close to it, but you cannot be. How do you become a politician? Right? So that's what the movements do. What the movements do, it lowers the entry barrier. So suddenly, because movements sustain not because of legitimacy from somebody's closeness or somebody's appointment or anything. Movements sustain because it takes legitimacy from the people. The legitimacy comes from people, right? So you need people who can mobilize resources. You need people who can mobilize people. You need people who can communicate, convey, convince, right? You need people who have the courage to fight, right? Suddenly you need all this. And when they come with this and they build this legitimacy from people, and they are suddenly welcome into the political party because suddenly the barrier entry. If somebody has a million views in multiple of the speeches, everybody is taking note, right? So suddenly we feel, okay, this fellow may be good to us. Maybe we should get him into. So movements politicize, movements reduces the political entry barrier. That is also, why is it? Because we have systematically stopped our entry routes to politics.
Yes.
Earlier, it could be a trade union or an association or a student. Most of it we have said student politics is bad. So we've stopped that. Trade unions are, of course, that is also that what we have told, that trade unions are. Then associations, political associations, there's also some sort of so anything other than hardcore politicians should not do any politics, right? And it should not be associated with political parties or any of that. So where do we get our politicians from? Only time is once in a while this large movements happen. That is only time you get politicians from. That's a key issue that we are facing. And unless we reduce the entry barrier, unless we create 20 more streams for people to come in, and it's not that struggles are not happening. Political struggles are happening across this country. Thousands of struggles are happening, right? Unless we are able to connect to them, unless we are able to bring them on, right? I think it's going to be very tough for us to take this battle head on.
No, I take that point, but I was also coming at, there are moments it goes like there is a stress, true stress kind of. Somehow I feel the existing political leadership is not able to carry forward it. You did a CAA protest, you forgot it. You did a farmers protest, you forgot it. Or you will do a NEET protest, you'll forget it. It's like you don't remember it after a while. You have to carry it forward again.
Yeah.
Somehow the existing political leadership sitting in the opposition are not doing that.
No, generally movements cannot be sustained. So you
Yes.
take even during for independence movements, right?
That's what
You will
I was.
have one movement, and then
Yes.
after maybe 5-10 years, you'll have another movement, large
Yes.
movement, right?
Yes.
And in this period is what the organization building and connecting those movements and build. That part happens. So movements cannot just because that's too much of an ask, right?
Yes.
And also we have to understand movements are built around a cause, right? A cause or a demand. If those causes are met, or the demands are met, or even partly met, or some certain other extraneous circumstances, a very harsh government response happens, that movement fizzles out, right? So, but whatever that happened, that movement has done already what it needs to do for the politics. Now, of course, from there, what is a responsibility is to get people who have gotten politicized very clearly, who have gotten legitimacy and connection to the people, to be part of political process, right? Electoral politics process or political party process, right? Some places it has been successful, some places it has not been. Like if you take Congress, Jignesh is in Mewani is in. Where does he come from? He comes from a movement. Right? Kanaya is there. Of course, he was in a party also, but at the same time, he comes from a movement background. I was not in any political party, and in fact, I was very skeptical of electoral politics, right? But I am now I've joined Congress, right? So, a lot of people, it's not that uh, political leadership is not doing it. Maybe there is a lot more that can be done, but it is happening. I agree that in the sense, those struggles which are happening continuously across this country, there is a need for us to connect, uh, bridge the gap between, and if possible, bring them along, right? And because they bring the legitimacy of the people that already they are fighting for, and that's, I think, is a key task.
So another issue that we are facing is that leaders are switching political parties. The leaders who have been in the electoral politics in the parliament, they are switching political parties. So it's like you're betraying the mandate. What does that mean to people's vote kind of? No, if that is happening, who will actually carry forward people's dissent? People voted thinking that you will speak for them in the parliament wherever policy is made, but then you go there, then you're switching parties.
One is that, like I have said, how do people decide?
Yes.
Do people decide between right and wrong, or do people decide between easy and what is difficult?
Yes.
Right. So, if if there is a shop 50 meters on the wrong side, do we take the wrong side, or do we take the 1.5 kilometer U-turn and come? What do we do?
They take the shortest path.
Wrong side, right? Why? Because it's easy. Even though the word itself says wrong, it's a wrong side, right? So individuals take decisions which are easy, right? And be it in bureaucracy, a lot of people ask, like, why do bureaucracy take such decisions when they know it is wrong, right? Because it's difficult to push for the right thing, right? To fight for it. So they find it's easy. Okay, they have their own rationale that, okay, I'm just following orders. This is not my decision. And I just need to follow orders. I'll just do it. And then that's easy part, right? Very easy. And generally that is how more or less we do. And same thing I feel, uh, because politics, as I initially said, what is the purpose? Is it to do something, or is it to become something, right? If it is to become something, then you will find the easiest way to become something, or to continue to being something, right? The other what is to do something, then you will see that, okay, what is the right way to do certain things, right? Or so this aspect of it, what is the aspiration of getting into politics? A lot of politics is also about career, and there is nothing wrong in it. I'm not saying it is, because we need people who are ambitious, people who want to get ahead in this political journey, and they have a dream about it. And when they do, they align their individual goals with, let's say, a political party's ideological goals, then actually wonders happen, right? When that ambition, an individual ambition, and the ideological goals align, then actually do. But when without that strong ideological background or conviction, if what is left is only the individual ambition, then you will always find an easy way. And this is a government which makes it extremely, extremely difficult to dissent, as you said. Now, a lot of political leaders have also been in power earlier. and there are also skeletons in the cupboard, right? So for them, and and there are cases where the government don't just go after the leaders, they also threaten your, they'll go after your family, they'll go after, there may be your there was a case in which they went after a guy's son, and they didn't go directly. There was a company which invested in a son's startup, but there is a small amount. But that company had also invested a large amount in another person's startup. So to target the son, they did the raid on that larger investment company. So this investment guy said, "Boss, we cannot work with you because this is getting affected." Nothing to do with this guy. The target was the father, right? So when you do stuff like that, I'm not defending anybody, but when you do stuff like that, when you threaten, when you blackmail, when you harass beyond a point, it's it's natural for human beings to take. So either it could be fear or it could be greed, right? You want to be in power, you want to be some, because that, if that is the idea and underlying ideology with like underlying ambition with which you came, then you will find the easy way to do it, which is happening, right? Which is, I'm not saying this is happening for the first time. Earlier also this, but what has changed is we used to look down upon this. We used to look down upon it as horse trading. Right now, we call it as Chanakya Niti, a completely positive connotation to what is a completely criminal act, right? Where is Chanakya and what we have brought? We have said horse trading or buying MLAs and breaking down parties is what Chanakya is about, right? So that kind of a narrative change is what? It's not that politics have always been highly moral or highly ethical, no. But the society expected it to be better. Society expected it to be moral, it expected it to be ethical. It always said, we would say that when the party member defends a party, you would say that, these guys are only going to defend because there is nothing left, no morality left in them, right? But now the society is saying that is smartness, right? This is how shrewd you should be. The guy is a very shrewd politician. He knows how to get 50 MLAs, give money or 50 crores per MLA and then get them, right? He's a resourceful politician. So when we start celebrating immorality, right, we start looking up or to this kind of unethical practices and start to look at it as strategy, start to look at it as Chanakya Niti, then politicians have even more the reason to be part of it, right? So somewhere the narrative has gone is this is not only acceptable, that this is also desirable, that this is something desirable among the politicians. Smart politicians are supposed to do, buy, blackmail, whatever, and get where. And this, when we and do we apply the same thing to our own kids, right? If in our school the kid wants a good box, do we tell that by hook or crook try and get the box? Is that what we teach? No. We suddenly there we want. Or during COVID, we were really upset that there were people who are hoarding medicines and trying to sell it at a highest price. How can we blame them? Because we are saying in politics, this is perfectly fine. Your leaders doing this is strategy and Chanakya Niti. But some guy doing it is now suddenly not acceptable. So then you consistently have to apply, right? Because we are all learning from our leaders. By hook or crook, if that is the acceptable thing, then everybody will do it. It's not just in politics. Everybody around your life will do it. So we have to be clear on that. And I think that's something... especially because that's where the media has also to come in. Like when we start celebrating this, that we start whatever the anchorization of media has happened, you start celebrating such
how
things.
How you tell that news to the people matters.
Yeah, how do you tell that, right? If you tell that as a success, then people celebrate it as a success. So that's definitely, and these are all things that I think is coming in that institutional design, in my mind, right? How do we preserve the democracy part? It needs robust institutions. What we are currently realizing is that institutional design was actually not built in to withstand the assault that is being faced. And without that institutional backing, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. You can work in a political system and there are certain things are known, right? But when it is not, right, like what happened in West Bengal, it's almost like whatever we do, we'll just do it. Who are you to ask, right? That kind of a thing. Everybody knows what is happening. Everyone knows. But yes, we'll do it. Nothing is going to happen. Also, when you differentiate or when you diverge your governance from your politics, governance results doesn't matter because your politics is based on community or communal or XYZ, right? So it's based on saying that, okay, we'll protect you from some danger that is going to come. It's actually politics of the cowards, right? Politics of cowards, because who fears? Cowards only fear, right? So the cowards fear something, right? And then the politics of coward is what we are doing. We are afraid, and we also make everybody else afraid. Something is this, that, some large thing is going to happen, and then because of that, whatever we do as governance doesn't matter, because at least we are stopping some imminent danger that has to come. We are doing that, no? So it's complete, like, if I have to give a term, it's politics of cowardice. Nothing else.
No, like we blame politicians, but like citizens are to blame as well.
No, I will not. No, because it's easy to say, right? But it's extremely difficult to be a citizen. There are 100 issues that an individual is going through, right? And what? So that's why I said no, easy, difficult. So we as human beings only once in a while take decisions between right and wrong. Majority of our decisions are easy and difficult. What is easy, we do it. If right is easy, we do it right. If wrong is easy, we do it wrong, right? So that's how we are wired. So what is the responsibility of a government or a society or any of us as institutions is to make, it's only one thing, it is to make right easy. It's a very simple thing, right? Make what is right easy. If we don't do it, right, then expecting citizens to somehow find a way, it can happen. It happened during the independence movement, right? But to have we are not in an independence movement. We are supposed to be an electoral democracy.
Let's hope that we don't go back there.
Right? So we at least no, so how do we make it easy? So, and that's where I think political parties also have to analyze that. How do we make it easy for citizens to get on board? How do we make it easy for citizens to start raising their voice? How do we make it? It's not just about political parties raising their voice, right? It is, one is of course telling what is wrong, but at the same time we also have to convince that we are right, right? So that part of the communication also needs to go out, right? From Congress is right, that Congress is good, Congress is right. If I'm not convinced about it, I'll not be able to say that. So if I'm able to say that, then I would want to get people on board, right? How do we then make it easy for people to get connected? How do we make it easy for people to come on board, start doing activities? So how to make or what we think as right easy? That's an underlying thing.
That is a top-down approach that you're...
No, it's not. Why? Because see, people who actually will fight no matter what, right? What we are expecting everybody to do it.
Yeah, that was where I was, like, where my thought was coming at, like, should each individual do something differently?
Yeah, but this should thing doesn't work. Like, I can expect somebody else to do, but I don't know what he's going through. His life, there are 100 things that he's going through. It's unfair of me to expect him to come and join this fight with me. It's completely unfair, because I might have certain privileges and luxuries through which I am able to do this fight, right? Or maybe I don't. I'm not saying only people with privilege fight. There are a lot of people without any of this also do the fight. But exceptional individuals, they do. But our aim is not to make this exceptional, right? It is to make it normal. The dissent should be normal. It is as simple as people questioning governments now. They are saying that, right, you are a Bhagat Singh of this time.
Yes.
Why? What Bhagat Singh was? And we are now just criticizing the government in a democracy. Criticizing in a government in a democracy is like drinking a cup of tea. It should be as simple. Okay? You read a newspaper in the morning, you criticize government. Right? You should be able to tell it to 10 more people. It should be that easy. Instead, it is so government is making it difficult. But how can us make it easy? How can we connect? How can we make it easy? How can we also convince what is right? Right? And that part of a conversation is very important. I'm not saying it is the top will decide how. No, that's not the point. Individuals who have convictions, who do fight, they do fight. And they do fight, they go to jail. Even if any political party is not standing for them also, they'll do it because there is convictions there. But expecting everybody to do it is unfair, because it's not that they're not fighting. They're fighting 100 other battles. Not everybody's battle is the same, right? So how do we help them to connect to this and join this battle? That's, I think, where a lot of politics needs to be redesigned to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.